in the country are seeing an increase in inquiries from women who want to be egg donors. And I thought, geez, the economy now, they're trying to make some money. I certainly understand that. In particular, you can receive between $5,000 and $10,000 in some cases, and that's one end of the story. The other was from those people who are looking to add to their family, and it is still, maybe you didn't know this, more affordable and easier to adopt, which is why I wanted to spend some time with our guest, Nicole Witt. She's the founder of the Adoption Consultancy and our guest on the Crosstalk this morning. I'll bet there are an awful lot of people saying, oh, really? Good morning, Nicole.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Adoption really is still the most viable option, isn't it?
It is. If you stick with adoption, it's virtually 100% success, and regardless of the advances in infertility treatments, the numbers don't even begin to approach that.
Well, and that's a key for anyone who is considering, I don't know, what do you call it, alternative methods to add to your family?
Right.
If the traditional method's not working the way you want it to, then what other options are you going to try? And, money is generally an option for a newly married couple. Maybe what they need to consider is revisiting something they thought was going to be too financially expensive, too time-consuming. And I guess that's what I hear more than anything. It takes so long. Is that always the case, Nicole?
It's not the case. There seem to be a lot of myths that surround adoption, particularly domestic adoption, and it really doesn't take, the years that you hear people say that it takes. Most of the clients that we work with adopt within 3 to 12 months, and I think the national average is in the ballpark of about 12 to 18 months. So it's certainly not, the 2 and 3 years that you hear people say a lot of the time.
I saw another story recently regarding Chinese adoption that they've stopped allowing their children to be adopted out of the country. Is that the case with other countries? Is it becoming less the norm?
China hasn't stopped, but they've made it much more restrictive in terms of who's allowed to adopt from there. And their wait times have significantly. They're upwards of 3 years right now. And other countries, they're just sort of each having their own issues. Guatemala closed down on suspicion of fraud. Vietnam's kind of in the same boat. So there's a lot fewer good international options for people these days. So more and more people are looking to domestic adoption. So if you are looking at domestic adoption, it's that much more important to make sure that you really approach it knowledgeably and stand out from the crowd so that you can decrease your waiting time.
Well, Nicole, that's interesting to me because I thought that couples that were looking to adopt went internationally because that was a less time-consuming way to go. Now, maybe that was the case and now it's not easier. If you can still do it within a year by adopting a baby from somewhere in the United States, I'm not sure why anyone would consider going out of the country, in some cases way out of the country, to adopt.
Right. Well, there's certainly lots of different pros and cons about domestic and international, but you're right. On average, it is quicker and it's less expensive to adopt domestically.
Well, and isn't, I don't know, maybe I'm completely off base. I have not spoken with a young couple going through the process, but don't that husband and wife, that newly married couple, look at each other and say, well, the doctor said we can't, so let's adopt. Let's go to Russia. Let's go to Vietnam. Let's go, why wouldn't they start with let's go to Ohio?
Right. Well, and I think the reason is, because of a lot of the myths out there, because they've heard, that it takes years, that they've heard these horror stories about, birth mothers coming back and reclaiming the babies, which, legally can't happen if you do an adoption properly and in a state, that has good protective laws. A lot of people start by thinking about international adoption, and one of the key things that really changes a lot of people's minds is that if you're looking to adopt a newborn baby, the only way to do it is with domestic adoption. With international, you're talking about older infants and even toddlers. So if you want to adopt a baby, if you want that baby released from the hospital at 2 days old directly into your arms, you have to look at a domestic adoption.
Nicole Witt, the Adoption Consultancy, she's the founder of our guest on the Crosstalk. Nicole, what's your website address? I am sure that there are people listening right now that would like to know more.
It's adoptanewlife.com.
Adoptanewlife.com. Nicole Witt, the Adoption Consultancy, founder of, and our guest on the Crosstalk on WIZM.